So we are going to continue to review the compound interest calculator, which means that when you put your money in your investment account, as the years go by, it gets bigger, you get interest, you make interest on your interest, and it grows and grows and grows. Now, instead of just thinking of a concept, they actually there's one called Money Chip, Compound Interest Calculator, where they can give you the truth, which can be very motivating, especially if it's a big number. So here, we're going to start with $1,000. If you have 1,000, 5 or 10,000 or more, that's great. It actually doesn't affect the number as much as how much you put in. I was playing around with this. If you change from 1,000, 5,000, 10,000, this might just go up, say, 10 or 15,000. The real important part is this line here, which happens to be called annual addition, which means, are you putting in $100 a month, which is $1,200 a year? Is it 300, 500, 1,000 or more? The money you put in every month over the years really, really affects the number, the big kahuna, the big number, So in this one, it's 12,000, which is $1,000 a month. I know that can be hard for some people based on their income and expenses. They might not have that much money, but I'm just showing you this to get you excited. For example, if you happen to live with your family or you have a low rent, maybe you're working 2 or 3 jobs, you got a lot of money coming in, maybe you don't have kids, maybe you don't have too many expenses, you got a lot of cash, you can pop $1,000 a month into your investments. We're doing 30 years. It's a nice number, It's not just like 10, 15, 20 years. That's a big number, 30 years. And then we're doing the 9% interest. As I explained, the S&P 500 can do 10 to 12%. It really depends on the year. But over the long term, 9% is okay. So imagine this. We'll just review it real quick. Start with the grand, 1,000. You pop 1,000 a month, which is 12,000 a year, 30 years, 9%. What do you think it's going to be? Maybe you already saw this. But this is going to be $1.8 million. Now, it's true that in 30 years, with inflation and purchasing power, this 1.8 million might be like, 1.2 million or 1.3. But imagine I said, here's a briefcase with $1.3 million right now. That, for right now, would be enough to live a great life forever in a cheaper country. Or if you happen to, own your own house or maybe own your own car. Even in America, there's some places you could buy a house for $200,000 with some land. So you wouldn't have to pay rent anymore, and you'd have the other a million something to live on, which, if you live cheap enough, maybe you could live the rest of your life without working. So this is just this example here. Now let's go for some other examples that are a bit smaller, a bit less exciting. It's like, okay, you start with 1,000, you put in just $100 a month, which is $1,200, 30 years, 9%. It's always going to be 30 years, 9%. I won't keep saying that. Well, you'll have like 191,000. That's not really much. That's $100 a month. But putting $100 a month is a great start of building a habit, which hopefully you can increase later when your income hopefully goes up. Okay, so the next one, we've got a same 1,000. This is $200 a month, $2,400 a year. And you got 370,000. That's better than nothing, right? Now, start with a little bit more, 2,000. You put $300 a month, $3,600 a year, 30 years, 9%, and you have 561K. Now, if you already own your house in 30 years, it's decent. You won't necessarily be bagging groceries at the local supermarket, barely can lifting a can, you'll have a little bit of cash, right? That's not bad, you know. Now, this is a little bit better. It's start with 1,000. You put 400 a month, 4,800 a year, 30 years, 9%. You're gonna have 726K in 30 years. That's not bad, right? And okay, you start with 1,000. You put in $500 a month. That's pretty good. So that's 6,000 a year, 30 years, 9%. You have 905,000, which is like almost $1 million. That's pretty nice, right? So then it's kind of like the one I told you about in the beginning. You know, this is like you start with 1,000. You put 1,000 a month, which is 12,000, 30 years, 9%, 1.8 million. Now that is, whoo, that's a lot of money. A lot of money. And here is just another one I did, which is just an interesting way to think about money, which is not to think of a dollar as a dollar, but think about, what if you take that $1, you pop it in FXAIX, the S&P 500, for 30 years at 9%, and it's really $13.27. Now that might not seem like a lot, but it starts getting crazy when you go up to $5. Okay, 30 years, 9% always. Well, $5 is $66. So imagine you go to the local 7-Eleven and you buy a drink and some chips, and it's $5, right? Now, if you think in your mind, is this $5 or is this $66? Now, who's going to spend $66 on one drink and some chips, right? But you might tell yourself, well, I need a snack. I need to spend it. That's fine. I'm not saying don't buy snacks, don't buy food, suffer, go hungry. I'm just saying don't think of it as $5. Think of it as $66. And this is really what I do. This is like really what I do. Okay, so you've got $10 invested for 30 years at 9%. Okay, that's $133, right? That's a lot of money. Okay, then you've got the $20, same 30 years, 9%. Now $20 is $265. So if you're like with your friends and there's like a basketball game and you're like, hey, I'll bet you $20. You are really betting $265. Are you just comfortable with losing $265 on a sports game? I mean, personally, I stopped gambling. I don't even bet $5 anymore. I don't like to lose money. And $5 would be like $66, right? Let's check. Yes, $5 is more than $66. Now, I don't want to just bet $66 on just some fun little bet. That's just not me. I mean, if you want to do that, that's fine. Okay, so $50, can anyone guess? Right? Can anyone guess 50? Over 30 years, 9%. I know this might be boring to you, but it's really important. It's over $663. And the last one that I'm going to do for you, it's $100. 30 years, 9% interest. Okay, now $100 is $1,327. Okay, so if you can change your mindset about money and think about money in terms of percentages, not dollars. Okay, think about, $1 is $13. 100 is like, 1,327. It's gonna really make you think twice before you just spending money. Like, I remember when I was young, I don't know about now, you could go into the store and buy a Hallmark greeting card that says "Get well soon" for $5. And I was like, $5? I'll cut a piece of paper, get a pencil, a crayon, and make one myself. And imagine $5 is $66. So every time someone felt bad, instead of spending $66 on a greeting card, I would cut a piece of paper, fold it, make one myself. And some people thought, oh, that's cool. And I would be saving $66 each greeting card, right? So, the last thing I want to say to just kind of wrap up this video is about this poll, which is U.S. ownership. Let me zoom in this for you a little bit. U.S. stock ownership annual trends. Now, if you think about this a lot, which most people never do, you will find that in the year 2000, it was like 60% of people were owning stock. And as time went by, 2010 to 2015, went down to about 50% or so. I'll show you that, about 50% or so. But until now, it's about 61%, which basically means, according to this graph, between 50 and 60 or 65% of people have owned stock in the past, 25 years. Like a little more than half. But what that also means is about 50% or half of everybody for the past 25 years never owned stock. Now, if you were to look at a graph of the stock market, you would find that stocks, especially since the 2008 crash, they've gone up like an airplane, and they're almost at their record high. Okay, I'm gonna just take a screenshot of this so that I can zoom in a little bit for you. But it's a bit unbelievable. I'm gonna tell you more about this in the next video, but you can see in 2008 here, it was at like maybe $900. It crashed, but then it went up. It's almost at 6,000, which is like 6 times higher since 2008. That's in the past 16 years. It went up like 6 times, which is like insane. That's like 50% of all those people who never had stock. If they had put in like $1,000, they'd have 6,000. They put in 10,000, they'd have 60,000. Right? If they had put in 100,000 back in 2008, I know it's like when the market crashed, it's like quite low. It's before that it was up here. It was at like maybe 1,500, right? But if they had put in 100,000, they would now have, like 16 years later. It's a bit of time. It's not like 1 or 2 years, but they would have like $600,000, which like in a lot of countries you could retire quite well. It's a lot of money.